Well, thank you, Nick and Shibu and everyone for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's been an honor to serve on the Missoula City Council for the past 8 years and to receive your endorsement for my past two elections. And I would be very grateful for your continued support and endorsement moving forward. I came to Missoula to attend the University of Montana in 2005, and I fell in love with our beautiful, vibrant community. And like so many others in the same boat, I decided to stay here and to make a life here. And I've been really fortunate to serve on the Missoula City Council for the past 8 years. And that has just continued to stoke and fuel my interest in public service. And I love Missoula. I love what Missoula has given me in my life, and I want to be able to give back some portion of that to the community. And that's in essence why I'm running for a third term. In my 2 terms on the council, I have not backed down from some really major challenges. I have a strong interest in transportation. And I've worked on a number of transportation policies. I drafted and passed the city's complete streets ordinance update a few years ago, which was rated best complete streets policy in the nation by Smart Growth America. And I've used my background in transportation to help build a coalition of support as we applied for and received a $13 million federal infrastructure grant that will build roads and water mains and sewer lines to accommodate new housing on the western part of Ward 2. I was unwavering in my support and my counsel during the multi-year legal fight that resulted in the purchase of the mountain water system from a hostile multinational hedge fund, securing public ownership of our water supply for future generations. And I enthusiastically supported the creation of the state's first affordable housing trust fund and the state's first municipal housing office, as the mayor spoke about earlier. These actions all required decisive leadership and consistent application of the city's strategic goals. And I believe that I played a strong role in all of those. We have done a lot of great stuff over the last 8 years and beyond, but there is so much more work to be done. And I believe that local government can be a transformative force for good in people's lives. Together, we can take on issues that are bigger than any of us individually. We are so much more than the sum of our parts. In the coming years, we will face interrelated.
15 seconds.
Thank you. We will face interrelated crises of climate and equity and housing, and these demand action at all levels of government. And I pledge to be a leader on these issues. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Nick. And there's been a lot of good answers and a lot of diversity. And I think that diversity of thought process and decision-making process is important on this body. I've come to appreciate over the years just the different things that different colleagues bring in terms of perspective and background. For me, the guiding North Star typically is the city's adopted plans and policies. We have strategic plans and we have strategic documents. The city has an overarching strategic plan. We have a growth policy, and then we have a variety of policies that are ranging from soup to nuts, from large scale policies, a parks development master plan on down to stormwater facilities master plan. And so using those policies and plans that are adopted through a deliberative, extensive process with extensive public involvement as our framework and as our guiding star helps keep the train on the tracks and keeps us going in the right direction. All that said, I mean, a lot of other candidates have touched on things that are extremely important. Data-driven decisions, having metrics to inform our decision-making process. In the case of land use and other ordinance adoption, sometimes it's what ability has the state legislature given us as a local government. Oftentimes we find that we may want to do something as a local government, and the state legislature has, particularly in light of this most recent session, has tied our hands and said and has taken away powers from municipalities. And lastly, it's
15 seconds.
Thanks. Lastly, it's measuring things through our values, and we have some common community values, and I believe particularly in looking at things through the lens of equity, through the lens of housing, and through the lens of climate. Thanks. Well, I think that there was some important work that was done at the city of Missoula in Missoula County and at the University of Montana, and that came out of a shameful place of having done a very poor job of responding to sexual assault. So I think that through working collaboratively, those jurisdictions have begun working, or have done a really good job of improving response to sexual assault. So I think that there are important pieces of training, important pieces around making sure that our law enforcement are well trained, that our city attorney's office is well trained, and have the resources that they need to respond and prosecute sexual assault and sexual violence, and also working with our victim support services through the Relationship Violence Services. That's a joint city-county venture. I've been extremely pleased and impressed with the work that RVS has done to support victims, and I think that work needs to continue and needs to be expanded upon. I think that despite these improvements over the last number of years, there remains much work to be done, particularly the intersection of sexual assault and sexual violence and our Indigenous populations. And I think a lot of the mayor's responses earlier to the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women apply in this situation as well. It's a holistic approach, and we need to continue to elevate the issue. Thank you. It's a really good question, and it's a good thought exercise, and it's a thought exercise that we need to go through frequently. And I think that that part of that is that we need to, the city is an active lobbyist, is active with our legislative delegation, and lobbies at the state level for changes at the state level. So I've got a laundry list of things that I would love to do if the state would enable it. I think we should expand access to childcare locally. I think we should pass enabling legislation locally to allow development of large-scale renewable energy projects. I think we should explore a universal basic income pilot and making that a long-term reality. I think we should explore protections for renters. The reality is that there's a needle to thread about what we're allowed to do within the state and what chartered local governments can do. So one thing that is a huge priority for me for the next term is a comprehensive rewrite of our zoning code and our development regulations. I think that this will allow us to better accomplish our land use goals around providing a diversity of housing types. I think it'll allow us to better accomplish our transportation goals of providing mixed use, walkable, livable neighborhoods. I think that it'll allow us to address a lot of our affordability challenges. And that's something that's in the budget for fiscal year 22 as proposed by the mayor. And I think I'm really excited to get working on that. I think could potentially be the most transformative, not a very sexy project, but perhaps the most transformative project.
15 seconds.
In the upcoming years. Thank you. Thank you, Nick, and thanks everyone for your time tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you do. I'm a proud Democrat, and I'm really grateful for the work that the Central Committee does. It's really important, and it's often thankless. I hope that my record and our working relationship over the last 8 years speak for themselves, and I hope to receive your continued support tonight. think there's a lot of good work that we can continue to do together, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to serve. I wanted to mention briefly the question of gentrification. I think there's a lot that we can do and a lot that we are doing. We can double down on our work on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We can continue to implement some of our adopted plans and policies to preserve the Missoula that we know and love, and also to create new opportunities for Missoulians. Thanks for your support. I appreciate you.